Gently close your eyes. Do deep breathing. We'll chant Om once together. Synchronize the chanting of Om with your exhalation. Breathe in. Sahana vavatu, sahanau bhunaktu, sahaviryam karavavahai, tejasvinavaditamastu ma vitvishavahay. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Gently open your eyes. We'll chant from verses 61 to 65 of chapter 2. Tani sarvani sanyamya,
Tani sarvani sanyamya,
yukta asita matparaha,
yukta asita matparaha,
vashe hi yasyendriyani,
vashe hi yasyendriyani,
tasya prajna pratisthita,
tasya prajna pratisthita,
dhyayato vishayan pumsaha,
dhyayato vishayan pumsaha,
sangasteshu pajayate,
sangasteshu pajayate,
sangat sanjayate kamaha,
sangat sanjayate kamaha,
kamat krodho bhijayate,
kamat krodho bhijayate,
krodhat bhavati sammohaha,
krodhat bhavati sammohaha,
sammohat smriti vibhramaha,
sammohat smriti vibhramaha,
smriti bhramshat buddhinashaha,
smriti bhramshat buddhinashaha,
buddhinashat pranashyati,
buddhinashat pranashyati,
ragadvesha vimuktaistu,
ragadvesha vimuktaistu,
vishayanindriyaischaran,
vishayanindriyaischaran,
atmavasyairvidheyatma,
atmavasyairvidheyatma,
prasadamadigacchati,
prasadamadigacchati,
prasade sarvadukhanam,
prasade sarvadukhanam,
hanirasyopajayate,
hanirasyopajayate,
prasannachetaso hyashu,
प्रसन्नचेतसो याशु
buddhi paryavatishthate.
बुद्धिः पर्यवतिष्ठते.
Hari Om, and a very good day to all of you. So we are in verse 64, where he says, be free from likes and dislikes. Means don't allow the likes and dislikes to control you. So if you remove your likes and dislikes, you cannot function. Actually, it is the very likes and dislikes which define the individuality. So he is only talking about shifting the control. Just as when you're driving a car or when you're riding a bike. Now the control is very important. If you have control, you can go at a high speed also. So being free from likes and dislikes, but moving among sense objects. So last week I was explaining to you the significance of the word charan. The word charan means moving, walking. Now that word is generally not used when it comes to describing or explaining the concept of contacting the world. But yet he is using it. The deeper sadhana message is what I was explaining to you last week. So charan means walking, moving, not running, not sitting, but walking. It's a beautiful expression. Actually, if you know Sanskrit, you will get confused here. Because why is he using the word charan? Whereas if you take the yogic approach and if you feel the energy behind what he's saying, it's so powerful. The beauty is there is a natural flow in life. Life is called Anubhava Dhara, the flow of experiences. Whether you like it or not, whether you want it or not, life keeps on moving. And that is in the realm of time, in the dimension of time. So this has been beautifully described in our scriptures. They have referred to time as a god, Kala Deva. And how they have described this Kala Deva is in constant motion. It's a very poetic way of explaining how the life keeps moving in time. And when I say life, One is to see from an external point of view, from the world's point of view. Other is to see from your point of view, that is your life, your experiences. They keep on moving. Kala Deva, he has been described as a person who never takes rest. Relentlessly, he keeps moving. And it is said that Ravana, when he did a lot of tapas and when he gained many powers, he wanted to conquer all the three worlds. So he conquered the Devas. He was a king of Asuras, and then all the three worlds he wanted to conquer. Everyone has to be under me. So in that quest for power, he wanted to run faster than Kala Deva. There is a small episode mentioned. Because his ego was unable to take that Kala Deva, that is the god of time, how can he move faster than me? I'm Ravana, I'm the greatest. So he tried to catch up, not merely catch up, he tried to run faster than the god of time. And he got very frustrated. The more he tried, the more he found that he was always behind time. Maximum he was able to go on par with time. But even for a moment, the moment he relaxed, time kept moving on. There is an episode where it described that Ravana actually got angry. He said, why is it that in spite of doing so much of tapas, in spite of being the ruler of the three worlds, I am not able to defeat this person? It's a very interesting episode. In the Mahabharata, where when the Bhagavad Gita has been given, in the end portion of the Mahabharata, there is a beautiful explanation about how time keeps on running. Arjuna actually tells this to Yogishri. When Lord Krishna decided to leave his body, now he wanted to send a message from Dwaraka. He was in Dwaraka. He wanted to send a message to the Pandavas. Now, in those days, they used to send messages through the birds, the pigeons, keeping, writing something and sending it through the pigeons. Now, that's going to take time. He had decided to leave his body. So what he did was he used a yogic method. He focused on Arjuna, who was most devoted to him. And he penetrated Arjuna's deeper mind, and he gave him instructions. Now just lie down. I want to communicate something to you. And suddenly Arjuna felt this urge to lie down. He himself didn't know why. And his thoughts started running towards Krishna the moment he lied down, because Krishna was using that yogic method and communicating this. So he said, Arjuna, I've decided to leave this body, and the entire Dwaraka is going to get destroyed. So all these things he communicated to him. And then the story is he left his body. So when Arjuna woke up, it seemed like a dream to him. But he was very disturbed. So he went to Yudhishthira and told him this. Yudhishthira said, it's better you start to Dwaraka right now itself. And in case there is some issue, you can also help Krishna. So Arjuna went there. But by the time he went there, Krishna had left his body, and whoever was remaining, Arjuna, in order to safeguard them, he was bringing them back. And when he came back to Yudhishthira, and when he broke this news, everyone was shattered. Yudhishthira was shattered. All the 5 Pandavas were shattered. Because the Pandavas were such great people. But without Krishna, all their splendor went away. And it is at that time that Arjuna gave out these truths. However much Krishna gave him the Gita and all that, it is actually when you apply it in life, when you go through the various experiences of life, and when you practice these truths, slowly you begin to absorb the wisdom. So he mentions to Yudhishthira that I thought I had won the battle, I was victorious. But today I have learned that in life nobody can ever be victorious. There is only one winner, and that is time, he says. Very, very powerful words. Most people actually don't read the Mahabharata after the war is over, because thereafter it is the story of how Pandavas ended their lives and all that. That's how it's a fading away, and our mind is unable to accept that. So even when they take serials on Mahabharata, the TV serials and all that, they stop off after the war, when the Pandavas and Krishna, everyone, they show them in the heights of glory, and they stop with that. But actually, the portion after the Mahabharata, especially the end portion, is very highly philosophical. But you need to be objective to be able to eke out the right message. Otherwise, you may get depressed. So, what is the message there? It is time keeps on moving. And when they say time keeps on moving, you can look at it in that way. Or if you look at it from a personal point of view, your experiences keep changing, keep moving. So at one point of time, you were a baby. Then you became a child, then you became a youth. Actually, if you take each individual, it's mind-boggling, Sometimes when you look at any one person or a group of people, each individual has his or her own set of unique experiences in life. And we are not talking of 1 or 2 experiences. We are talking of millions and millions of experiences. So this is the very nature of life. It keeps on moving. Now, when he uses the word charan, it's a very powerful sadhana he is giving. He says, if you can also flow with the experiences objectively, then you will become very peaceful. When you resist the flow of experiences, that is when all the problems start. That's why a great philosopher, when he was asked, what should I practice? He said, go with the flow. It's a very beautiful expression if you think of it. Go with the flow. So experience by experience, you are moving or life is taking you, but your mind refuses to accept that. The mind refuses to leave its lingering even after the experience is over. So this is a sadhana, very powerful sadhana which you need to practice and perfect. That is, keeping your mind where your body is. Now when I say this, don't immediately send me questions. I'm unable to keep my body where the mind where my body is. I tried and all that. This is a very deep sadhana, and it's only by practice you can slowly start living this. It cannot happen at one go. But first you need to understand the concept, you need to admire the concept. See, whatever we admire in life, we tend to absorb those things. When we admire a quality in another person, then slowly we also absorb that quality. So you need to appreciate in the sense, you need to see the beauty of what he's saying. And the more you appreciate this, the more you admire this, the chances of living this are more. So when you contact the sense objects, there is a beginning and then there is an end, physically. But when it comes to the mind, you will find that when the end happens, the next experience actually starts, but the mind continues to linger. But as we just now saw, time keeps on moving. Life is a flow of experiences. So whether you like it or not, whether you want to move or not, life is going to move on. Experience after experience is going to keep coming to you. But when your mind refuses to move on, what happens is that it traps your consciousness in that experience, as it were. A portion of your consciousness that gets stuck there. And then the next experience comes. Again, you get completely enmeshed in that, and then you don't want to leave it. When the third experience comes, again, a portion of your consciousness gets stuck in the second experience. Like this, we are talking of thousands and thousands of experiences where your consciousness has got stuck. This is what they call as impressions, psychic impressions. Many different words have been used according to the context. Sometimes they use the word samskaras. Samskara means, again, a deep-rooted seed or impression which is formed within you. Sometimes they use the word karma. Karmas mean, again, the impressions. Of course, the word karma has so many dimensions. One of the dimension. So how do these impressions actually get formed? This is exactly how I explained to you. When your mind refuses to end an experience, when actually the experience is ended, then an impression is formed. Now that experience may be sorrowful, it may be happy, may be positive, negative, all these things do not matter. But the impression is formed. So what these great masters are saying is that you need to practice practice to stop the mental lingering. Now, I received a few questions last week asking for more practical tips. How do we stop the mental lingering? Because however much we try, the mind keeps on going, especially when an experience is very intense. I did give you one tip last week, a very powerful yogic sadhana, that when you go through an experience and when the experience is very, very intense, just for a split second, get your focus onto your breath. A split second is more than enough. You know, when you go to the Bhajagovindam, Adi Shankara, he says, you just read the Bhagavad Gita once. All your sorrows will vanish. Everything he says once, you know. Just take the name of the Lord once. Now, a person asked me, how is it just if I utter the name of God once, now how will all the sorrows go away? Now, what he means by that once is, you know, in full depth, even if once if you're able to taste that higher bliss, that will slowly have a compounding effect and it will completely destroy all your sorrows. So that's why I'm saying, just for a split second, if you're able to get your awareness onto your breath, the breath is a tool which we are using. So if you're able to get the awareness onto your breath, then what will happen is you will just pull back a bit from the experience. You will still go through the experience fully, intensely, but you will not get enmeshed in that. The chances are you will go through the experience very objectively. So you should practice that. I will give you another tip which has been given by the yogis. If you are unable to practice this straight away, we will relativize it further. That is, see, life gives you negative experiences and positive experiences. Now, for you to become 100% objective about both negative and positive straight away will be very difficult. So what the masters are suggesting is that first you become objective, you practice this with respect to the sorrowful experiences. How will you practice this? When I say practice it with respect to sorrowful experiences, I am talking of practicing the detachment, you know. They have suggested certain meditation methods, which is nothing but, you know, when you get some time, just sitting, closing your eyes and recollecting the positive experiences in your life. What are the good things which have happened to you? See, remember, detachment from negative can happen only if you get attached to the positive. Now, detachment from both negative and positive can happen when you get attached to the infinite. That is a further advanced level, which is what he's giving here. But when you practically try to do it, you will find it difficult. That is why these tips are very, very useful. So this is a powerful meditation process. That is just closing your eyes and remembering some good thing which has happened to you in life, and then consciously bringing that emotion of happiness. Now, what is most interesting is when you try to do it, what will happen is the sorrowful experiences all the sorrow or any negative impressions pertaining to that experience or pertaining to similar experiences will all come out, and they will not allow you to stay put with that happiness. So when that happens, don't worry, just keep doing the deep breathing. Actually, this is the principle of Yoga Sankirtan. In Yoga Sankirtan, of course, we are using a further higher principle where the infinite energy is invoked. So all the impressions start coming out from within you, and you just, you be a witness and you release all of them. So this is a very simple tip which they have given. And the practice of gratitude every day in the night, at least that you can do. That is, every day before you go to sleep, if you can write down in a notebook just one or two things, good things which have happened in your life. Because as your mind starts getting more and more attached to the positive, what will happen is that all the negative impressions will get transmuted. It's a question of time. And then simultaneously, since you're doing the Yoga Sankirtan sadhana every day, what will happen is even you will go beyond even the positive. Positive in the sense, see, positive is always relative. So it is still a limiting concept. So there is nothing like negative or positive. You will get attached to the infinite. So, moving among sense objects. So when he says sense objects, don't restrict it only to sense objects. In this context here, he is applying this great principle when it comes to sense contacts. But you can apply it in in all the aspects of life. So I did mention to you when I was explaining to you the concept of rising above the likes and dislikes, how you should formulate a schedule in life, have a goal and then formulate a schedule. Now that genuinely helps, because when you fix from I'll wake up at this time, from this time to this time I will do the yogic kriya, from this time to this time I will do Yoga Sankirtan sadhana, this time I will have my breakfast, at this time I will do this. So when you fix time slots, what happens is it helps in practicing this concept which he is giving next, that is moving from one experience to the next experience. That is a further aid. It is not a guarantee that your mind will move, but it will be of a very great help. If you block a time from 6 to 8 I will do this, and then from 8 to 9 I will do this. So your mind gets prepared, Once 8 o'clock, you stop that, you move to the next experience. It becomes more easy for you. So one thing is to keep studying all this, but the other thing is to put it to practice whatever tips I am giving you. Then you will be able to absorb the messages contained in these verses into your life, which is what is most important. So free from likes and dislikes, that is, likes and dislikes should not initiate your action. Your goal should initiate your action. You should act in an inspired way, and that inspiration comes from your goal only. And then second thing is moving among sense objects. That is, action should not develop further likes and dislikes. How? By ending experiences mentally when the physical experience ends. Again, I'm putting a word of caution here. This does not mean forgetting the past. If you forget the past totally, then you will not be able to function in life. It only means your mind will not go to the past without your permission. But it's, for some reason, if you decide that yes, I want to think about what happened yesterday or what happened last year, you're taking some decisions, you need to consider various factors. But as long as it's done in a conscious way, as long as it's well within your control, it is very beneficial. But the moment the mind starts running on its own, then there is trouble. So, moving among sense objects, and then with senses controlled by the self. Indriyaihi atma vashyai. So, Atma means the self, indicating self-effort. So, this philosophy is not meant for tamasic people, for lazy people. You know, most people when they come to spirituality, when they go to a guru, they feel that, the guru will do everything. Or even when they develop some devotion towards God, God will take care of everything. So they use this philosophy to further enhance their tamas or laziness. So you should be careful about it. That's why he uses the word Atma Vashyai, controlled by the self. So it is all in your hands only. See, when you go to a guru, see, as long as you're physically not close to a master, that is one way of learning, But when you become physically close to a master, let's say your karmas are in such a way that you get an opportunity to move with the master physically, the guidance which will be given will be more powerful, the growth will be faster, but the method will be very crude, because whenever a master spots the tamas, laziness in a student, and if the student has surrendered to the master, then he will become very, very strict and stern, because sternness is required to knock off the tamas. So it is not so easy to take personal guidance from a master, because the ego will get hurt. You require a lot of surrender to be able to be physically close with a master and learn. So it is better that wherever you are, you apply these principles and first conquer the tamas within you. That is why Atma Vashyai. So Vashyai means taming, subduing, becoming a master, that establishing the authority. So last week I did give you a few tips on that. The other dimension, which is wishing or desiring willfully, willpower. And I even gave you some tips to increase your willpower. Practice all that, because the more you develop your willpower, the more you will have control over yourself. See, when everything else goes out of control, it is still okay. But when your own mind goes out of control, then that is the most dangerous thing. So developing the willpower is the key. Atma Vashyai. Beautiful word he uses. So don't just keep complaining that, oh, I am unable to do this, I am unable to do that. I explained to you last week, no, willpower is like the physical muscles only. On the first day itself, you cannot lift too many weights. It's not possible. If you see some of the weightlifters, it is amazing. how much of weight they are able to lift. But if you go and talk to them, what about the very first day when you started doing this? They all say that they were unable to lift even 1/10 of the weights which they were lifting at that point of time after developing their muscles. So it is through sheer persistence, hard work, efforts that they have been able to build the physical muscles. So similarly, if you want to build the muscle of willpower, you need to practice keeping up to your commitments in every experience of your life, at every moment. Commitments to yourself, commitments to others. You decide something and then do it. That increases your willpower. So when you practice that, slowly, everything will come under your control. Atma vashyai, indriyaihi atma vashyaihi, vidheyatma, one whose self is subdued. Videya has again several dimensions to it. We'll see that. So one who has achieved self-mastery. See, Atma Vashyai, Videyatma, all these things look similar, but each one is giving one aspect of the sadhana. See, for example, when we say be happy, that gives you one meaning. The moment we say be blissful, that gives you another dimension. And then if I say be in ecstasy, that gives you another dimension. So when you study all these sides, that is, see, for example, if you take an object, from front side it will look in a particular way, from back side in a particular way, from the sides in a particular way. So when you see all that, you get a complete knowledge of the object. Similarly, he is giving you different the viewpoints, that is, different ways of looking at the same thing, that will help you to gain a comprehensive understanding, a comprehensive wisdom. So what does he mean by Vidheyatma? One who has achieved self-mastery. Vidheyatma means one whose self is subdued. One who has achieved that self-mastery. So Videyaha, the first meaning of Videyaha, it means that which has to be done. See, now I am giving you the further sadhana tips. How do you become a Vidheyatma? The secret is in that word Videyaha itself. The first meaning of Videyaha is that which has to be done, what ought to be done. Now, it's a very significant word, relevant word which he is using, because the context which he is talking about is likes and dislikes. He started off by saying you should become free from likes and dislikes, from the clutches of likes and dislikes. Now he uses the word Vidheyatma, Videyaha. Videyaha means that which has to be done. Now that is where we get a sadhana tip. How do you conquer your likes and dislikes? By focusing on your duties. That which has to be done means what he calls as the karma, nitya karma and naimittika karma. Nitya karma means regular duties. Naimittika karma means occasional special duties. So a powerful tool is being given in order to conquer your likes and dislikes. So instead of allowing your likes and dislikes to dictate terms, if you can practice this, that is, decide in life what are your duties. In order to do your duties, first you have to understand what are the different roles you are playing in life. See, you are one individual playing several roles. As you have the role of a son or daughter towards your parents. You have a role of a parent towards your children. You have the role of a spouse, husband or wife towards your spouse. You have a role as a student towards your master. Like this, you have a role as a citizen towards your country. You have different roles in life. When you're working in an office, you're playing the role of an employee. If you're running your own business, you may be playing the role of a boss. So various roles are there. In each of those roles, you have what he calls as videyaha. Videyaha means things which have to be done. If you, for example, if you get married and you have now children also, there are certain duties. Now the tendency of the mind is to shirk the duties. Why? Because some like or dislike overpowers you. The like or dislike which clashes with the duties. There was a young couple who took my guidance some time back, and it was interesting. They fell in love with each other, they got married and all that, but what they openly said after a year or two is that happiness factor is no longer there. We are constantly fighting and And when further analysis was made, of course, certain things were wrong from the girl's side, certain things were wrong from the boy's side. But here I am referring to from the boy's point of view, because that is very relevant here. What was happening is that boy was, he was a bachelor till that point. He married this girl, and then once he got married, now new set of responsibilities come. Now he cannot simply roam around with his friends like how he used to do earlier. He has to come back home at a particular time, because otherwise why do you get married? And then when you get children, further the duties, more duties you get. So he was unable to shift his mind from bachelorhood to being a married person, from brahmacharya to grihastha. That shift was not happening mentally. So he was getting irritated. He started seeing the married life as as an obstruction. And so he was getting frustrated, he was getting angry, and all that anger he was venting on his wife. Similarly, from the wife's side also there were certain issues. So as I was explaining to them, each one, the boy, it immediately it hit him. My God, now it is a different role I have here. Now I have to do my duties here properly. So what I suggested to him was that, see, it's the same thing. The mind does not want to move from one experience to the next experience. Now that experience is over. Once you got married, you're no longer a bachelor. But the mind gets stuck there, and that is preventing you from leading a happy life here. And if you allow this to just keep growing, slowly, the rift will happen. The relationship will not become deep, So ultimately, you're getting married, you're forming various relationships with people in order to enjoy that happiness. And if that happiness you don't experience, then what is the point? So I gave him this sadhana only, videya. Start listing down your duties, number one. Now, the moment we say likes and dislikes versus videya, it's not fair, because it's not that all your likes and dislikes will clash with your duties. Because in order to explain, I am putting it like that, but it is not true in life that likes and dislikes are at one end and the duties are at the other end. It is not that way. 90% of your likes and dislikes will match with your duties. So you will enjoy doing your duties. It is only that 10% there may be a clash. So in those areas you need to exercise your willpower, because what you ought to do in life is beneficial for you. What you like to do in life, what you dislike to do in life may be beneficial, may not be beneficial. It all depends. So the sadhana which the yogis have given with respect to videya is that you should train your mind in such a way that you start liking your duties. You start enjoying your duties. So most of the time it may naturally, you may be able to enjoy. But the 10% case where your like or dislike interferes with the duties, that can come and spoil your entire life. See, it is very interesting. If you take a glass of milk, now you have a whole glass of milk. Supposing you just add 1 drop of poison to the milk. Now the poison is only 1 drop. The milk is 1 whole glass. But this 1 drop is enough to spoil the whole milk. You cannot argue and say it's only 1 drop, therefore let me drink it. You'll never do that. Similarly, you may be doing your duties perfectly, you may be, you may also be enjoying it and all that. But that 1 or 2 things, when the 1 or 2 cases where your like or dislike may be against the duties, that 1 or 2 things can come and destroy your peace of mind completely. "99 things are fine, but 1 thing is not okay." Your focus will be only on that 1 thing. That 1 thing has that power to come and destroy your peace of mind. So that is why the yogis said focus on that 10%. How? By training your mind to like whatever you do. You may ask me how. That is the power which has been given to you, the Ichha Shakti. The Ichha Shakti is the capacity to develop a like, a desire using your willpower. Long back, a youngster came to me. He was in his 12th standard and he had taken the science group, Max with science. He was doing very well in Max and physics, but when it came to chemistry, he always used to just pass and all that. Max and physics, he always used to top. Chemistry, just pass or 50%. So that was an alarming situation for him, because a public exam was coming, 12th finals. So he asked me for tips. How do I score well in chemistry? So then I asked him this question. do you love mathematics? Do you love physics? He said, yes. The moment I asked him, his eyes brightened. What about chemistry? He said, I just hate chemistry. Then I told him, you will not be able to get good marks. Very difficult. So what should I do? That was his question. I said, every day before you study chemistry, keep those books in front of you and just close your eyes and do some deep breathing. If you're finding it difficult to get into the meditative state, just recall that experience which you had when you attended the meditation session during the Sunday discourses. Just recall that experience. So it'll help you to become meditative. Then do deep breathing and first form the connection with that subject which you're going to explore. And in that meditative state, just awaken the Ichha Shakti, use your willpower and say, I love chemistry and I want to explore this. I bring that desire. I desire to explore and study this subject. So to which he asked me a very interesting question. He said, sir, is that possible? Will I ever get to enjoy this? I said, see, now you have taken this group. Now you have no choice. You have to now study that. You have to appear for the exam, and your performance in that subject may affect the overall score and your chances of doing whatever you want to do in the next in your college. So basically, you need to get good marks. That's why you have come to me. So now you have only one choice: whether you do that grudgingly, whether you are not enjoying it, or you do it happily. That is a choice you have now. So this small sadhana practice. So he practiced it. He said first week, in spite of doing that, he was not enjoying it. But he had surrendered fully, so he kept on practicing it. The second week, third week, the desire started coming. And then by fourth week, he really started liking certain aspects of chemistry, like organic chemistry, the nomenclature and naming of compound. Those things started becoming interesting for him. So the moment one aspect of the subject brought that interest, now that helped him in further developing the Ichha, the willful desire. And within a couple of months, he said, I've been able to focus more, and that particular that quarter, he topped. He was a topper in chemistry also. It's very, very interesting. This power you have. So that is why a great thinker said, freedom is not in doing whatever you like. Freedom is in liking what you do. So in the first step, he said, get out of the clutches of the likes and dislikes. And then now he is giving you further practical tips. He is distinguishing the duties from likes and dislikes. Wherever the likes and dislikes are in line with your duties, you will not have an issue. But where the like or dislike clashes with your duties, there you need to put your foot down and do what has to be done. I have to do exercises. I have to chew my food and eat. This is a duty, basic duty towards your body. But I don't feel like chewing. I don't like to chew. There is a clash. Then by developing, if you practice the previous principle of developing the willpower, you will be able to overcome the influence of that like or dislike and practice videya. So videyaha means constantly focusing on doing whatever you ought to do. Right now, let us say, this is just an arbitrary example I am giving. Now, I may just like to go and sleep. But what I ought to do here, I have fixed a time, I have fixed this activity, that these great truths have to be expounded to people who are very sincere so that their lives will get transformed. This is what I ought to do. But let us say I personally right now like to just go and sleep. This is only an example, arbitrary, imaginary example. Don't go about saying, Yogishri, he doesn't enjoy giving lectures, he wants to sleep. So, let us say, supposing there is a clash. Now what should I do? If I have a weak willpower, then I will succumb to my like. I will say, I will close off this session and I'll say, all of you come tomorrow, I want to sleep now. But if I'm duty conscious, I will say, that can wait, but this has to be done now because it has been fixed. People are very, very interested and they are getting benefited. That becomes a duty towards humanity. So like this, you in life, in every role which you're playing, if you're able to do your duties to perfection, then you will grow spiritually, you will gain self-mastery. The more you succumb to your likes and dislikes, the more difficult you will find when it comes to doing your duties. That is when there is a clash. So doing your duties is not merely physically doing your duties. It is about doing it with full enjoyment. Many a times among couples, supposing, I've seen this quarrel happening, the wife says, the husband does not spend time with me. So the husband immediately gives a list. He said, no, Monday from 8 to 9 I spend time with you. Then Thursday, this half an hour we spoke. All these, he's made a list. Now when that list is given to her, she just tears it and puts it in the dustbin. Why? Because she is not talking about the quantity of time. It is about with what bhavana are you doing that? Are you fully there or are you doing it like a to-do list, Okay, from 8 to 9 I have to spend time with my wife or husband or children, whatever it is. It's not like that. So, it's, the moment we talk of doing duties, it almost looks as if, now you're not going to enjoy life. You have to somehow or other, take the burden and do your duties. It is not that. It is training your mind to like whatever you ought to do. First it will start off with a like, and then that will develop into tremendous enjoyment. A yogi is one who has become a vidheyatma, which means he has trained his mind to enjoy every bit of responsibility and duties which he has taken up. See, when you don't enjoy your duties, you will want to shirk your duties. The same duty will become a burden on you. Some people say, in Tamil they say, Umba kashtapattu vazhchen. They say, I really suffered. Kashtapattu vazhchen means I have suffered and I have put an effort. Now, I'm putting this in Tamil. Later I'll translate it. கஷ்டப்பட்டு உழைக்கவே வேண்டாம், இஷ்டப்பட்டு உழைங்க. Means very difficult to, there's a nice poetry there. That is, you don't need to do things as a drudgery. Rather, you do it with that ishtam means ichha shakti. You do it with that enjoyment. Oh, I took care of my family. I know the children's education is there. I have to earn and I have to pay. There is always a tendency to look at life as a burden. Look at your responsibilities as a burden. That is, what your mind does is, it splits your life into two. On one side lie your responsibilities. On the other side lies enjoyment. So your mind always sees a dichotomy. A yogi has become a Vidheyatma. Vidheyatma means one who has united enjoyment with responsibilities. Which means you take up more and more responsibilities and duties in life and enjoy fulfilling those responsibilities. Spirituality is not escapism. It is not about leaving life. It is about living your life fully. So many people ask this question, sir, in this modern life where so many responsibilities are there, is it possible to practice all this? Yes, that is what is spirituality. If you leave off all those responsibilities and then say, I'm enjoying, what is the big deal? That is just a irresponsible enjoyment which is neither beneficial to you nor the society. So this sadhana you should start practicing. That is, number one, fix the various roles in life. It's already fixed. You need to recognize those roles and then see what are the duties in each role. As an employee, what are the things which I ought to do? As a spouse, what is it that I ought to do? What are the various things? As a parent, what are the various things which I ought to do? As a student, what are the various things which I ought to do? See, even when I gave you this sadhana, after every discourse, just for 5 minutes, recapitulate all the points, put it in the comment section. Your mind may not like it. But as a student, yes, I have this duty. One who conquers the mind and who puts in that effort will become a Vidheyatma. So as a student, what are the duties? As every roles, you fix those duties. And then step number 3 is using your willpower. That is, in 90% of the cases, your likes and dislikes will match with the duties, so no issues. But where there is a mismatch, you should exercise your willpower and focus on your duties. And then comes the 4th step. Using your Ichha Shakti, you should train your mind to like your duties and enjoy fulfilling your responsibilities in life. So till you come to that 4th step, you should not leave this. So this is a 4th step mastery. When he says Vidheya, that which has to be done. You will have to progress from the 1st step and get established in the 4th step. Once you get this capacity to enjoy things at will, then he says, prasadam adhigacchati. Such a person attains peace, attains happiness. So enjoyment is not in doing some special thing, so-called special, I'm putting it in quotes, Enjoyment is to be eked out right now in every experience of life. The problem is you go on postponing your enjoyment to something in the future and you miss your present experience. You're living your life with your family, your spouse is there, your children are there. You should start enjoying that experience. Immediately you will say, sir, you come to my house and see my spouse, see my children. Then you will change your philosophy. You will say, this is not my philosophy. This is the philosophy of life. That's why we call this Bhagavad Gita the manual of life. The very training in spirituality is, in spite of all the imperfections, you should learn to love a person. You should learn to enjoy an experience. See, in every experience, if you want to complain, there will be enough points to complain. If you want to enjoy, feel grateful and enjoy, there will be enough points to do that also. Now, the question is, what do you choose? The mind naturally gravitates towards the negative, but if you are able to develop that willpower, which we saw in the previous practice, that is the Atmavashyai. So if you are able to develop that willpower, then you will be able to practice the sadhana of Vidheya. So Vidheyatma, one whose self is subdued. So think about this, apply it in your life. Before we do the meditation today, I'll just take up one question which has come, which is very relevant to the topic. See, every week so many questions come. Many questions I answer during the discourses. Some questions I don't answer immediately because it may not be relevant to the context. There is a flow, which we are going in. But at some point of time they'll be answered. Certain questions I take them directly because they are very much relevant. So Amrita has asked this question about emotions. Hari Om Yogishri, there is a doubt that has been circulating in mind and also in the many conversations that I have been having with people recently. This is regarding tackling emotions like anger, which one must keep away from. There are a few questions. Number one, isn't anger a natural emotion? In many cases, anger is caused by a sense of injustice when we feel some boundary has been crossed, which is against our fundamental sense of right. The anger helps us to push forward and set things right. So how can it be negative? Very, very good question. And then the next question is also about emotion only. When we talk of sorrow as a negative emotion, then we have to keep away from people who are sorrowful. Isn't that unjust? People need others most when they are in sorrow, isn't it? And then she has also asked about the emotions. Third question. Okay, we'll go one by one. First is anger. So, is anger positive or negative? See, first of all, when we did that verse, I did explain to you that any emotion can be positive or negative. Why talk about anger? Anger comes when your desire gets obstructed. Even in the case of injustice and all that, it is because we have a desire for justice. I am not saying that desire is wrong, but we are only factually analyzing what is happening. When that desire is obstructed by someone, immediately it turns into anger. But there were other modifications also we saw. We even saw about joy. When a desire gets fulfilled, you get joy. Now, even that joy, per se, is joy positive or negative? If that is not under your control, that can become negative. That example which I gave you long back when in those days the lottery was not yet banned, and when a man actually won 1 crore in lottery, and when he was told that, the moment he heard that, he felt so happy, he immediately had a heart attack and died. This happened when I was a teenager. At that time, it was very strange for me. He has won 1 crore, result is, he is now no more. If you think of it, it's a very joyful experience. But the joy was too overwhelming. So, per se, no emotion is negative or positive. That is what we have been seeing in the previous verses. See, when he said dhyayato, that is the casual thoughts, developing sangaha, attachment, then kamaha, desire, uncontrolled desire. That's why I gave the example of driving a car. In a car, you may be going at a high speed, but if you have control, there is no issue. So, no emotion per se is positive or negative. It is a question of whether you are a master of the emotions or whether you are a slave to those emotions. This is number one. So, whether it's joy or whether it is sorrow or anger, the question is, are you a master or are you a slave? If you are a slave, it is negative. This is number one. Number two, apart from your control, there is an inherent nature of any object or any emotion. When I say inherent nature, the effect which that particular emotion or object causes. A classic example is, if you take drugs or alcohol, it has certain inherent properties to make you, to get you into a state of intoxication, lowering your consciousness, even health-wise. It harms your health. It harms your body. So even though generally this principle is true, that there is nothing right or wrong in life, it's all a question of your control, but you cannot go and apply that control with respect to drugs. Now here he says moving among sense objects, So therefore, every day I will take drugs or alcohol, but I will be controlled. You cannot do that, because when it comes to drugs, these kind of intoxicant, even a little bit of that can harm your system. See, there is nothing morally positive or negative about it, but it is harmful to your system. That is the very nature of that substance. Similarly, certain emotions like anger, sorrow, jealousy, all these things, by nature, they are harmful to your system. So when you talk of anger, now no doubt, see what you're saying is, supposing there is some injustice happening in my life. Now I get angry and so I respond. So that anger has helped me to tackle that situation. Yes, that is externally. But what we are talking about here is, what effect does it have to you internally? Anger destroys your peace of mind. It's not only anger. Many of those emotions which we call as negative, again in quotes, negative means harmful to your body, harmful to your mind. When I say mind, that which disturbs your peace of mind. Because ultimately, even when you're fighting an injustice, what is prompting you? It is that motive, or it is that goal of wanting to be happy or peaceful which motivates you. What are you looking for in life? It is only for that peace, which is what we are going to see next week. Prasadam. Prasadam means peace. So now, first I'll explain this and then I will come to know how to handle these kind of situations. So when it is said that these kind of emotions are negative, You should not confuse that with action. See, the problem is today people think that unless you are angry, you cannot fight injustice. That is not true. That is only one way of responding. Actually, if you are overcome by anger, you will not be able to even fight injustice properly, because that will cloud your thinking. The moment you get angry, your clarity will reduce. When your clarity reduces, your decision making ability will reduce. We saw that, no? So if you go to martial arts, for example, they teach you self-defense. But in order to become very efficient in fighting, one of the things they say is you should not get angry. You should not react. See, whenever you get angry to a situation, you get into a reactive mode. In the management jargon, they say, no, don't be reactive, be proactive. Proactive means the ability to choose your responses. Actually, in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna wants to shirk his duties. He wants to run away. Krishna tells him, no, it is your duty. You fight the injustice. Duryodhana has taken away your kingdom. He has, done so many negative things. So it is your duty. You have to fight this injustice as a warrior. That he says on one hand. On the other hand, he also talks of overcoming negative emotions like anger. So that causes confusion. So the confusion is because people think that, supposing, let us say, some injustice is happening. Now, unless and until I am angry, I will not be able to act. This is a general misunderstanding of people. No. When you become angry, no doubt that pushes you to respond, but that response will not be under your control. There is another way of functioning, a higher way of functioning. That is, when you see an injustice and that injustice is affecting your life, first thing is, don't allow the injustice to spoil your peace of mind, because unless and until your mind is calm, you will not be able to act efficiently. This is step number one. Step number two, functionally, when with clarity, see what is the best way of responding to the situation. Later on, he will be talking about this concept. He'll be using the word Loka Sangraha. Loka Sangraha means for the welfare of the world. When the moment we talk of welfare, we are talking of fighting against injustice, everything. Function for that sake, he says. But you will be able to do it only if your mind is calm. So if your mind is calm and then when you act, you will have a better chance of solving that situation than when you respond with anger. So when we talk of gaining self-mastery, when we talk of gaining mastery over the emotion, we are not talking about the external action. If something goes wrong, of course you need to take corrective actions. That is at the action level. So don't mix up the attitude with action. A person may come and insult you, let us say, and you want to bring that awareness to that person that this is wrong. There is nothing wrong in doing that. Sometimes you may need to do, if a person is constantly insulting you and that is preventing you from doing your duties in life, then it becomes very important for you to give that message to the person. But all these great masters are saying is, don't lose your sleep over it. If that person insults you and in the night you are unable to sleep properly, next day you go and shout in anger. Now the person will insult you more because he wants you to get affected. That is the very purpose of that insult. The same thing, okay, he is insulting, he is being unrefined. Why should I allow that to spoil my peace of mind? So I'm going to be happy. Step number 1. Step number 2, then do I allow that person to insult? No. This is called aggressive goodness. I will find out various ways by which he becomes aware. He stops doing that. It may even be giving a fitting reply, but even in order to give a fitting reply, you need to be calm, you need to be alert. This is what Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna. He says, see, the Kauravas are being unrighteous. It is your duty to fight against unrighteousness. Be calm internally, but don't allow that unrighteousness to spoil your peace of mind. Because ultimately, if you lose your peace of mind, if you become disturbed, then you have allowed the other person to achieve his purpose, which is to disturb you. So, divorce the action from attitude. That is when we are talking in all these verses, when we are talking about gaining mastery over the emotions, we are talking about the attitude, not at the action level. When it comes to the action level, when you are in complete mastery, when you become a master of yourself, then according to the situation, you can pick and choose that emotion which is required to be effective. Sometimes the expression of love may be required. Sometimes anger may be required. And we are using the word anger here. Many times I say, even in today's discourse I said, if a student is tamasic, the guru, the master is not going to say, oh, you be tamasic, I am not affected. That is at the internal level, the master will not get affected. But externally, he will be very sharp, he will be very stern. Sometimes the master may use anger as a tool in order to destroy the student's tamas. It may look as if he is angry, but actually internally he is not angry. But he is using the emotion of anger as a tool. That is the Ichha Shakti. Difference between Ichha and Kamaha is this goes on its own without your control. In Ichha Shakti, you choose your response. So, isn't it natural to get anger? Yes, if you are not trained, it is natural. But once you learn these principles, it is very natural to respond in a positive way. It is all a question of what training have you given to your mind. Okay, so think about this. I'll take up the remaining questions as we go along. Now we'll do meditation. Gently close your eyes. Do deep breathing. Breathe in a very relaxed way, without any kind of strain. With every breath, I am going deeper and deeper into myself. I am not this body. I am not this mind. I am not this intellect. I am that infinite self, the supreme consciousness. From this moment onwards, I choose to enjoy every action of mine . I choose to become a Videha Atma by focusing on all my duties and responsibilities in life. I choose to fulfill all my obligations in each and every role which I play in life. I am Swayam Prakashit, self-illuminating. Offer your gratitude to God Supreme. Offer your gratitude to your Guru and all the holy masters. Slowly come back. Wriggle your fingers, your toes, rub your palms to create a warmth. Cup your eyes with your palms. Rub your eyes gently, your cheeks, forehead, top of the head, back of the head and neck, and slowly open your eyes. Welcome back. So today we had a very powerful session as usual. So what you do is, after this, apart from recapitulating all these points, first you do that, and then as a sadhana you can take up a few roles of your life and list down what are the things which ought to be done there, the videya, and see whether you are doing them. Just bring that awareness. I'm not even saying do what you ought to do. I'm only saying just examine. Because once you become aware, the correction will be automatic. So just do it today. By evening or whenever you get some time, just take up 2 or 3 roles, like for example as a role as a husband, or a role as an employee of the company, whatever be it. So in those roles, have I been doing whatever I ought to do? So what are the things, the videya, what are the duties? So like for example, between partners, it's not that I am earning and giving money, the other person, let's say, is not earning, I have done my duties. No. What about quality time? What about affection? Have I been giving unconditional love? So find out, just examine. It's a very good sadhana to do that. That will help you to absorb the more deep principles which I'll be giving as we go along in this verse and the other verses. Okay? So thank you very much. We'll meet next week. Thank you.